Hello and welcome to the Valley. Today I am your host, Janet Michael. It is all about hunger on the show today. So Les Sinclair is joining me again. He, you remember, is the communications and PR manager for the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. Les, as people are listening, it is the Monday after Christmas. As we're recording, we still have another week almost before Christmas even gets here. But this is a weird 2 weeks for people in our communities who are struggling to put food on the table.
Yeah, this happens a lot, especially this time of year, because a lot of the food pantries will close this time to give their volunteers a break because they can't get volunteers anyway. People go out of town, they travel, and so the people who might be volunteering are not going to be available. And so it becomes really wonky. And so it is challenging for people who might be seeking food assistance. We try to alleviate that a little bit with our food finder tool on our website. You can still find places that are distributing food, and they typically keep their information up to date on that website. And at the very least, they have contact information. We do recommend that if you are advising someone to go to a food pantry or you yourself need a food pantry, to make sure that you call them beforehand to make sure that they're there.
I've had that conversation actually just in the last few weeks with Andrea at Winchester CCAP, and they'll be closed for a period of time. But they also, because they have such a great group of people that work together in all the food pantries in that area, they coordinate. So CCAP is going to be closed on these 2 days, but Highland is going to be open. And so they're able to still make sure that people have access and be able to give their volunteers and their staff a little bit of a break over the holiday.
They're really smart to do that. And it's really one of the great things that the food banks helps facilitate as well. Just bringing these groups together and allowing them to contact each other and us and make sure that we know and they know who's doing what, where, and when. A lot of nonprofits compete for money. And I think that's one of the things that really sets the food assistance nonprofits apart, is that we are all trying to solve the same problem. And the competition isn't there. It's really about how do we distribute food to people who need it.
I did not know until recently that Scouting for Food was part of your network. I always thought that the Boy Scouts put that on in each of the communities and then gave it directly to a food pantry in their area. I didn't know that the broader picture was that they were partners with Blue Ridge Area Food Bank.
Yeah, and that's something that we help facilitate in putting them in contact with our partner pantries. In our northern region, some of them will deliver the food directly to a partner food pantry. Some of the other locations in the Shenandoah Valley, they'll bring it to the Verona location of the food bank, or we set up a satellite location in Harrisonburg and they'll bring it there. In our eastern region, they'll bring it to the food bank warehouse there in Charlottesville. So there's a lot of that going on, a lot of coordination. We weigh all of the food though, and we try and come up with a good number. And it's really amazing what the Scouts have done year after year. It's over 1 million pounds of food now since we've been tracking it. Now, the Scouting for Food Drive has been going on since 1985. We've been tracking it since 2012. And since 2012, there are over 1 million pounds of food. And then there's money that they've also collected. And so we're about almost 900,000 meals being distributed over the years through the Scouting for Food Drive. So these are just young men and women who are serving their community. They go out the week before, they canvass a neighborhood and say, we're coming back next Saturday. And then the next Saturday, they come back and they collect all that food, and their families are doing this. It's a true community event because it's not only the Scouts and their families, but the community that is giving the food. And then that food comes to the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, or one of our partners, and gets distributed right away to the community. So it's the community helping the community. And the Scouts spearhead this and they get a patch for it. And it's really great work.
And it's quite genius too, because I can very easily pick up things while I'm at the grocery store and think, okay, I'm going to donate these to my local food pantry, and then may not get to Winchester, for example, for a week or 2 weeks. Or in my case, I'm there, and 20 minutes after I've left, I'm like, oh crap, I had that bag that I was supposed to take inside. The fact that all you got to do is set it outside of your very own house makes it so much easier to donate and to make sure that it gets to your local neighborhoods.
That it is genius. The Stamp Out Hunger food drive, which is put on by the letter carriers, is another one of those where, hey, we come right to your home and pick it up. All you got to do is put it out. And so the scouts do the same thing. I think the limitation with the scouts, I think it would be bigger if there were one, more scouts and more neighborhoods to canvas. This is the beauty of Stamp Out Hunger, is that they're going to every mailbox in a community, whereas the scouts are limited to their geographic region that they can go to on a Saturday morning in a couple of a few hours.
And it's not impossible for other organizations to put together food drives like that in a similar fashion. I know a big event that happens here in Middletown is the reenactment at Cedar Creek. And what they do on the Friday night is they have a battle for Church Street with the North and the South. And I live on Church Street. And so soldiers go from one end of church to the other, and they encourage people to put out bags of food because who wins the battle is determined by which side of Church Street collected the most food. And
That's
you only
great.
have to set it out at your mailbox. You don't have to do a whole lot to it. But those of us on one end want to make sure that we're better than those of them on the other end. It's not that complicated to put something like that together.
No, and it's these little interesting spins that people put on these sorts of food drives that really make it interesting. We've got a few of them in our community. One person does a bike challenge. It's called the Green Bean Bike Challenge, and they ride over the Blue Ridge Parkway and put in, I don't know, it's 100 or 200 miles, and they're going up 27,000 feet of combined elevation. It's really incredible. And that is another instance where they're doing a food and fun drive that really goes to make sure that they're helping their community and through an effort that they really enjoy doing.
It couldn't be more important right now for a variety of reasons. Some we've talked about in the past, but you had your highest month in October so far in serving people in need.
Our second highest month last October of 24 was our highest month ever. And what's going on in October? People are probably going, there's got to be something about October. There is. It's got 5 weeks in it. And so, because it's an extra long month, there's extra demand on the food pantries and the food bank. That 1 or 2 extra days that people have to go through really puts a strain on folks who are living on the margins. And this year we had the added development of the uncertainty around SNAP, and people didn't know if they were going to get their SNAP food benefits. And so they turned to food pantries and food banks across the Virginia, across the country, really, just to make sure that they had what they needed because they weren't sure if they were going to get it. And then we also had, especially in your area, the federal government shutdown, which impacted, I think it's 30,000 people in the Blue Ridge area who are federal employees. So there's 30,000 extra people who also maybe not sure how they were going to put food on the table. They were turned into food banks and food pantries as well. So those things combined with the extra long month really weighed in. And so we had about 184,000 guest visits during the month of October. Again, like you pointed out, our second biggest month in history. We've been around for 44 years. It just keeps going up and to the right, which is for a financial person is a really good thing. For the food bank, it's not what we want to see.
And it's not always necessarily about the food. If someone can come to a food pantry and get food to feed their family, they then get to reallocate that money to cover an electric bill, to cover putting gas in their car to get back and forth to work. In the case of those government workers, some of them still had to go to work. They still had to pay daycare. They still had to do all of the things, and yet they weren't getting a paycheck. It alleviates some of that financial stress by not having to buy food.
Yeah, and there is an economic stimulator that takes place with SNAP and the federal workers, and when people go to work, just in general. So when the government shut down, they weren't going to work. For those that didn't go to work, that means the restaurants that were near where they worked, that they might go to lunch, they weren't getting money, which means that the wait staff weren't getting tips. So there is this whole economic snowball effect that takes place when those jobs are pulled back and when those jobs are made. And SNAP is an economic generator as well. It generates $1.50 to $1.80 of economic stimulus for every dollar spent. And that goes to small mom and pop stores, that goes to local convenience stores, that goes to the grocery stores that are nearby. And then they pay their workers and they have the trucks that deliver the food. So there is a big economic benefit to these sorts of things. And so we are really concerned about making sure that the businesses who might be impacted by those sorts of economic shutdowns and pullbacks continue as well, because it's a ripple effect. And we want to make sure that ripple effect doesn't affect people when it comes to food.
And this is something that is year round. Much like we talk a lot about shopping local during the holiday season, we talk a lot about being able to give back to nonprofits and giving back to your community, donating to the local food bank or food pantries during the holiday season. But this is something that is also a need in February, in August, in September as well.
Yeah, we know that hunger doesn't take a holiday. So a lot of folks, and this is great, I'm the same way. You really start to think about the food and you're grateful for the food in your life around these food holidays that start in October with Halloween. There's all this extra candy, and then November is Thanksgiving and all this extra food. And then in December, you're thinking about Christmas and all the food that comes with that and all the cookies and treats. And we're all grateful for that. And it's really a wonderful thing for those of us that have it. And so we think, oh, geez, I should help take care of the people who might not have as much. So we really start to think about it, but it doesn't take a holiday and it's an ongoing measure. January, February, especially those cold months when people are deciding on, do I heat? Do I eat? What do I do with my money? Because my expenses go up when my thermostat goes up. We want to make sure that people have what they need. So January, February, March, April, all the months of the year are really a good time to give to the food bank. So thank you for your gifts now toward the end of the year, but remember us all year long.
Let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the supper club. That was something that I was not familiar with. You had sent over and said, "Hey, let's make sure we talk a little bit about the supper club when we do the show." I didn't know what it was. I'm like, "Oh, is he inviting me to dinner?" No idea. Can we get in the weeds on that in the next segment?
Absolutely.
We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Les Sinclair. He is the communications and PR manager for Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. Again, you can go to brafb.org and find the food finder. You can make a donation. You can do all of the things there. We're going to get more details about that as well when we come back in just a couple of minutes.
Looking for ways to serve but don't know where to begin? Go to justserve.org, a free site to help those who want to serve find opportunities nearby. Just Serve has teamed up with organizations nationwide. Go to justserve.org and type in your city, and you'll see a list of service opportunities. Sign up on Just Serve to receive emails letting you know about new projects. Just Serve is fast, free, and easy.
Welcome back to the Valley. Today, I am your host, Janet Michael. We are on the Zoom today with Les Sinclair. We've been having a conversation with him every month for the last several months. He is the communications and PR manager for Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. And Les, when we went to break, we were talking about the fact that hunger doesn't take a holiday and it needs to be sustained throughout the year. And so one of the things that were on your bullet list of things for us to talk about today was the supper club. And I was like, what on earth is the supper club? Can you explain for people who also were like, I don't even have any idea what she's talking about?
Yeah, it's really just a subscription model that people have control over. That if they would like to give in a sustaining way to the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, they can do that really easily by joining what we call the Supper Club. It's just an affectionate name for folks who are sustaining givers. And a sustaining giver is really just somebody who gives monthly. So think about if you give, I don't know, let's just make a number up, $120 a year to the food bank. You could divide that and just give $10 every month and we would take it from your checking account or bank account, however you set it up, and you have complete control over it. You can stop it at any time if life circumstances change. But it also gives you the ability to maybe give more to the food bank too. So if you could give $20 a month, that's $240. And by joining the supper club at whatever amount fits your life, it's a sustaining amount that helps us manage money all year long. As you aptly pointed out, that hunger continues every month of the year. And so the supper club really helps us manage that and have the money coming in all the time versus us having to go out and seek money from the community on a regular basis. So the supper club, and when you join, when you become a sustaining member of the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, you're really making sure that we have funds available so that we can buy the food that we need so that we can distribute it to our community partners.
So after you sent back and told me what it was, I pulled out my phone. I went to brafb.org. Right there on the front, it says donate. I clicked on the button and it said, "Would you like to join the supper club?" And I said, "Why, yes. Yes, I would." You got a couple options, $10, I think 25, 50, 100, whatever it is. I clicked on the one that I wanted. My phone literally filled in all of the forms with my name and my address. I could choose Apple Pay. I could choose PayPal. I was in the basement at the time. Didn't have to come all the way back upstairs to find
Yeah.
my credit card or debit card, any of that, in literally less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It was done. It was set up. And all I kept thinking is, I can't wait to tell Les that
Yeah.
I am now providing over 300 meals for people in our area because that's what $10 equates to.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And when you think about the breakdown of the money, so $1 helps provide more than 3 meals. And so what that means really is that with $100, that's 300 meals. But you think about just $10, right? $10 is 30 meals. And if you break that down to how that might help an individual, that's a meal a day for an entire month. That's a supper a day for an entire month for somebody who visits the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. And a lot of folks will say, how do you do that? $1 is 3 meals because we're buying in scale. We're not even buying like wholesale. We're not even buying by the pallet. We're buying by the truckload. And that really helps us maximize that money. And it is just vitally important when people join the supper club, they are really helping the food bank. It's a great way to give. And you can budget for it every month. So, if you're giving 20 or 30 or $100 a month or whatever it is that you decide that you're going to give, whatever fits your budget, that goes into a pool with a whole bunch of other people who are doing exactly what you're doing. And that money helps sustain the food bank all year long.
And at $10 a month, quite frankly, it's half what I'm paying Hulu. And I watch it maybe once every 6 months when I remember that I have it. So
Yeah.
it's
And,
such a better investment.
Yeah. And a lot of people make those comparisons. And I always say, and look, I don't want you to not have Hulu, right? For me, it's like you deserve Hulu. You deserve your cup of latte or whatever if you have extra and you choose to give. And I would say find an organization to give. If it's not the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, maybe it's a local pantry, maybe it's another organization, the United Way in your community, or whatever organization that fits the values of your life. Find one and help support them because that money really comes right back into your community.
And also, being part of the supper club doesn't preclude me from also then donating to Winchester CCAP, from giving to United Way. I can still do all of those other things.
And I think that many people are giving not for the tax advantage reasons. I think they give because they want to feel good about what they're doing and they want to go, I'm making my money do something better for our community.
There are so many of us too, I think, that have either been in a position where we have been to a food bank, or we probably should have gone to a food bank or a food pantry, and we're not there now. So we want to pay it forward. I want to be someone who can help someone because I've been there and I know how tough and how hard it is. When you were talking before we went to break about heat or eat, there have been times in my younger years where thermostat goes down and a sweater and a sweatshirt and a blanket go on. I think we've all had those experiences at some point in our lives.
Yeah, and there are people with health issues that have to do certain things. Folks with MS have a tendency to need things cool. So in the summertime, they raise their AC, which is going to cost them more money. There are some other folks who need things warmer. And so this time of year, they really got to crank it up. And it's been a long December already, right? We're really feeling the chill. And so when people are making these choices about turning the heat up or not, it really is challenging. I'll tell you the story about a guy that I spoke with a couple of weeks ago at a pantry, and he was saying that he's really concerned about it. And what he does is he just closes all the doors in all of his home and he stays in one room with a heated throw and heats the one room and he heats the heated throw. And that's what he does to keep his bills down. And then he goes to one of our mobile food pantries and picks up food to help him get through. So he's living a life that is more constrained and he's doing his best to keep his bills down. He's a guy who's retired and disabled, and that's what he has to do in order to keep his bills at a regular amount because he's living on a fixed income. So those types of stories we hear often from people that are coming to the food bank, and that's where we come up with the term heat or eat.
Not everybody has the ability to just turn up the thermostat because they have electric baseboard heat. Some people have oil furnaces that have to be refilled. Some people have gas heat that also has to be refilled. Some people do use wood stoves and fireplaces, but that wood's got to come from somewhere. So it's not always, hey, I'm just going to budget this extra little bit a month for my electric bill, because guess what? It takes electric to run that oil furnace and that gas furnace. So they still go up in addition to having to put whatever fuel source into heating your home.
Yeah, and I have one of those fuel sources, and I can tell you that it hurts when you're dropping $1,000 for a minimum fill, and you're going, "Wow, that hurts this month for sure." And so there are people who are really just struggling to make sure that they can keep those costs down as low as possible, and they do that in part by visiting a food pantry in the food bank as well to make sure that they have the food that they need, so that they can spend that money on other resources like keeping their home warm.
And there are so many different things. We talked earlier about the fact that you have 5 weeks in October. There was the looming government shutdown. There was uncertainty around SNAP benefits. Now, as we're going into the new year, I think it's pretty safe to say that healthcare premiums are going to double, if not triple. I have a friend who's going from paying, I want to say she was paying $900 for just herself, and it's now going up to $2,200, and she doesn't even have the same coverage that she had before. This is going to have a massive impact on people as well. Do I continue my healthcare coverage? At what cost? There are always things that are going to be there for some people in our community.
Well, and Janet, you bring up a vital point for the food bank because one of the four pillars of our 5 year strategic plan is the health of our community. There are people who have chronic illnesses that can be managed with their diet. This is one of the reasons we make produce completely free to our partners. They can just get as much produce as we can distribute to them. That's because that produce can help a person manage those chronic illnesses. And when people are making choices between their health and their food, it's easier to go, well, all right, I'm either going to eat junk food, which is not going to help my diabetes or high blood pressure or heart or kidney. All of those things can suffer. And so if we give them the right food, they can manage those illnesses and then keep those healthcare costs down for not only themselves, but for everybody else, because we all know how the insurance game works. The more that they spend covering health problems, the higher our rates are. So if we can keep that down, not only as a community, but as a nation, then that's a good thing. And so we have a vested interest at the food bank to make sure that these illnesses, these chronic conditions are able to be managed. And we even have something called a food as medicine program and a healthy pantry initiative that we're working on. Folks can go to our website for more information on those things, though.
I had a conversation with Jason Craig in November during Camping for Hunger Week. He is director for community health for Valley Health. And he talked a little bit about food is medicine and all the other factors that go into someone being healthy, getting healthy, or staying healthy. And it's not always, going to the doctor. It is having a healthy diet. It's having transportation access to a doctor, to a gym, to things along those lines. And I think sometimes we get a little tunnel vision when we're thinking about those things.
Yeah, and Jason is on our board, by the way. I should point that out. So a big thanks to him for his service because that is a big time job and we do appreciate it. But it helps along that pillar of making sure that our community is healthy. And you're exactly right. Boy, there's so much that we can influence. A lot of it is genetics, but there's more that we can influence with just diet and exercise alone. And diet is maybe more important than exercise if you ask the experts. I'm not one, so don't take my advice. Research it for yourself.
As someone else who is not an expert, I will also say that volunteering is good for your heart.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think many of our volunteers would too. So if you're looking for something to do with your family, you can do it this holiday season at a food pantry or the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, or find another organization that fits your values and your family's values and do it together. And you don't have to do it during the holiday. You can do it anytime.
I hope that there are a lot of people in our communities that, as we get close to the new year, are thinking about that list, that New Year resolution list that we all make. Volunteering is one of the easiest things that you can put on that list and then actually follow through and continue to do. Much like somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to lose weight, so I'm going to join the gym," and they go in January and February, and then they never go back to the gym again. You're going to want to continue to volunteer if you do it in January and February again throughout the year.
You'll meet great people, and really it will do more for you than you will be doing. I promise. I've found that personally, and I think that if you talk to somebody who volunteers regularly, you will find the same.
So where can people go to learn more about Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, to get that food finder tool, all of those things?
All of those things are available online. Is the best place to go. It's easily searched. Just search for Blue Ridge Area Food Bank in your favorite search engine, and you can maneuver around the website and find what you need. It's really easy to do that.
Thank you for taking the time to chat with me for the last couple of months. Once we get done with this show, we got to figure out what we're going to do together in 2026.
I love it. Janet, thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
I will be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, a few minutes after noon, so meet me here then.